merry meet and fare thee well. Settle in for a story with me, Astin Gaël. Thank you so much for being here today. This is your daily collective message for Saturday. Or, if you're on BlueSky, Catterday, February the 28th. It is the last day of February. Congratulations. You made it through 2 months of 2026. How do you feel? This is not a leap year, so we do not have a 29th. Fun fact, my parents, my dad has now passed away, got married on leap day, so they were only able to celebrate their marriage every 4 years. If you are not following the magic shop on BlueSky, the link is in the description box down below. If you enjoy knowing where the stars and the planets are at every day, I post astrology over there. If you would like to support myself and my system, we are diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, and it does prevent us from being able to work in the 9 to 5 sect. This is my sole source of income, and down in the description box below, there is a link to the Buy Me a Coffee. Over there, I post blogs, not behind a paywall, so if you get something out of them, feel free to send a tip. It is much appreciated. If you enjoy the way that I read and you would like your own personalized short story, you can purchase that in the shop over there. We are working our way through What There Is to Love About a Man by Rachel Snyder by reading an excerpt a day and basing that daily reading off of the title. Today's focus is tools. A man and his tools are not soon parted. He keeps them under lock and key, carefully hung on pegboards against drawings that show their perfect resting places. The smaller ones in drawers and boxes and pouches, in places only he knows. He's got tools for the car and tools for the bike, tools for building and tools for tearing apart. Tools to fix the tools when they're out of alignment. Pipe wrenches and metric wrenches and Allen wrenches and combos that do a little bit of everything, but nothing very well. Band saws and hand saws, hacksaws and back saws, mallets and hammers, chisels and all. Thingamajigs and whatchamacallits, and like a surgeon, he knows precisely what to use exactly where. Face it, some men were born to screw. His tools dangle from his belt and from the loops of his overalls, and he wants to find them where he left them. Some men are buried with a ball-peen hammer clutched over their hearts, and why not? In life, he's a fool for his tools. Excuse me. It's allergy season. It's funny because I know men that do fit into the drawings to mark where the tool goes, and I know men who have no organizational system whatsoever. Both fall under the category of I know where it's supposed to be, and if it's not there, I know it wasn't me who moved it. When I first moved to New Mexico, I lived with the guy who had everything had a place and it had to be in its place. I don't think his tools had drawings to mark where they were supposed to be, but he certainly knew where each one was supposed to be. And He did not have a single problem lending out anything so long as he knew that the person was going to respect it, and if they didn't, they were going to replace it, and that they were going to return it exactly to the spot that they found it. And then there's my partner, who has a hodgepodge of tools everywhere, and they may not always make it back to the same place, but they make it back to the same general area. And even in all that chaos, he knows this is where the Allen wrench should be, somewhere in this vicinity. Anyways, tools. They are necessary for a lot of men's work. And you've got men who use and abuse them, and you've got men who respect them. Let's start with the deck of plenty. What can we say about tools? People can end up being tools for us, can't they? Okay, the colors green and pink, or like somewhere on the pink spectrum, like fuchsia even, could be very important. There are two people here, and I'll pull out the character cards here in just a minute to find out who they are, but they're kind of talking to each other back and forth. So for now, because we don't know who the character is, we're going to say person A and then person B. We've got two categories. Person A is saying to person B that they view them as kind of a partner in crime. I was saying people can be tools. Person A views person B as a tool to be wielded when they would like to stir up some chaos. Person B has realized that that particular energy is something that they would no longer like to hold on to. While chaos can be fun, they don't want to be the reason that person A enacts not violence, but wrongdoings on other people. They don't want to be this person's scapegoat anymore, basically. Because while partners in crime insinuates that there is a equal partnership, there's often one of the people in that duo that is the mastermind, and they somehow get away with everything, and when the crime is done, they get to walk away scot-free, and the other person is a victim of this crime being done. Now, that's not to say that they're fully a victim, because they did agree, they did consent in some way, but person B is no longer wanting to consent. So person A is meeting that I no longer want to consent to this with a lot of love bombing, a lot of lifting this person back up on a pedestal, temptation and flirtation. And person B is saying, been here, done that, you know, got the t-shirt and it shrunk in the washer the first time I washed it. I'm not interested. Even if person A has never utilized love bombing, person B has been subject of love bombing many times before. Person A does not respect creation, the ability to create. They may have a wounded feminine archetype. I am all for people who choose to not be mothers, AFAB people who are motherless by choice. However, if your choice to not become a mother yourself manifests in looking down on people who do make that choice, you need to reevaluate your moral code. Right, we were talking about moral code yesterday. Okay, so person A, no respect for creation, pretty much exclusively respects chaos. Person B absolutely respects creation, absolutely respects the divine feminine. Possibly even embodies the divine feminine energy. Setting that aside. And who is person B? Green showing up again. Okay, so person A is the strength in the reverse. A pretty weak-willed individual. In my cheeky little deck, the strength is represented by this cat lady, right? This person is probably a dog person. They prefer sentient beings that they can control. You cannot control a cat. No amount of treats, love, and affection is going to earn you control over a sentient being that demands their autonomy. Person B is the therapist upright, also known as the Empress in the Rider-Waite deck. Definitely not a person that you can control. They have their scepter in hand. They are sat on their throne comfortably. You can't take that position from them. They operate out of love, but that does not make them vulnerable. I set this aside. It's a quote that I received during a meditation with Kali Ma. The war in your mind can be over the minute you decide to stop the fighting. To me, this says that this could be aspects within the self. A wounded feminine aspect could be somebody that is very weak-willed. And a healed feminine aspect is somebody that understands vulnerability, understands having an open heart and compassion, but does so with boundaries in place. I'm seeing all of these trees as hedge plants, and I learned in an herbalism conference a couple of weeks ago that hedge plants are always around the village, and they all represent boundaries. Not just the boundary of the village, marking the line, but they spiritually and energetically help us to work on our boundaries. Two more cards, please. So it's interesting because these two people could be lovers. I absolutely read for same-sex situations, so if you are not comfortable with the LGBTQIA community, no worries, scroll on. There are other readers that do not pick up on same-sex connections. Often in same-sex connections, there is somewhat of an imbalance in masculine and feminine energies. Unfortunately, the trope of butch, femme, uh, bear, cub, in feminine same-sex relationships and masculine same-sex relationships often implies that there is an inherent power dynamic just already instilled. And it often follows a bit of a heteronormative trajectory, even though everything about your connection is anti heteronormativity. If these two were to reestablish a harmony, overcome that imbalance in power dynamics, it could look like both of them having clear boundaries, being capable of direct communication with one another and with people outside of them. Sometimes those labels get projected onto us by people in our groups. And if these two people were able to say, no, that's actually not, that's not our relationship, that's not who we see ourselves as, this power dynamic could be equal, could be restored to harmony. This would have to be done by working on the lifestyle. So possibly agreeing to not try to purchase a house, work outside of the normal 9 to 5 society, both parties would need to be comfortable living on the edge, being on the outskirts. There's also an aspect of a much needed ego death, possibly on both of these individuals' parts, but I would say most definitely on the part of the person that seems to just not be listening. Every time they're met with a no, they come back with a different approach. That's very ego based. I want to say there's one more thing. Yeah. There is a childish aspect of bringing a third party in, most likely in the form of a friend, on one or both of the individual's parts, claiming that they want a unbiased opinion on insert fight of the day here. But it's not unbiased because the friend is obviously going to side with their friend. Until that is overcome, these two don't belong together. You know? Until next time, be well, be you.